Thank you. So, as you're aware, our organisation is looking to encourage people to make more ethical choices in terms of tourism. The animal tourism industry is worth about $250 billion, so therefore it's obviously very, very profitable, and hence the reason why it's very difficult to stand against these people in terms of raising awareness. So there's an estimated 560,000 animals in wildlife attractions. Out of these attractions, 3 out of 4 are unethical. So that is 420,000 420,000 animals in unethical sanctuaries, destinations, zoos, circuses, whatever sort of entertainment facility is. That's nearly 500,000 animals that are suffering every single day for the purposes of entertainment. Now, no one's spoken about trophy hunting, so I'll just refer to the fact that whatever she said about it is absolutely true. There is no conservation argument, there is no political argument, there's no economic argument. 85% of people in the European Union, in the United Kingdom, they don't want trophy imports brought into the country, and yet they're still managing to be shipped around the world. And again, I refer back to the $250 billion industry that they're supporting. Recently we have had some good news in terms of canned hunting. Canned hunting and trophy hunting is slightly different markets. They believe there are potentially 12,000 lions being farmed in Africa at the moment. 12,000, and they are led from cub petting to lion walking to lion bones to canned hunting. So at every point in their lives they are making money for somebody. As you're aware, the pandemic has had an awful impact in terms of the tourism industry. Some of this has been good for animals because there's been some respite. Most of it has been a huge, significant loss in income that has supported ethical practices, and more often than not, the income is there in terms of the way that the local people live and work with the wildlife. They understand it. If there is a good facility, a good sanctuary, good conservancy, a good reserve, they will understand the value of the animals. The community buy into ethical tourism is how it survives. We cannot have these facilities run unless people understand that they are actually going to benefit from them in the end. Unethical tourism, and any other wildlife crime in terms of poaching, rhino horn, elephant tusk, all relies on the exploitation of these native people. That is what it relies on. We started off this website with a review platform to give advice, and we all know what the advice is. You don't ride an elephant, you don't pet a tiger. When you go somewhere, you ask questions. You want to know, where do these animals come from, why are they here, what are you going to do with them, are you going to look after them? If you're allowed to pet a baby lion, you know it's unethical. We all know that, and this is where we started. And as we've learned through the last few years, and especially through the pandemic, which has given us a great insight because it has shown us the level of revenue that goes into ethical and unethical tourism, and how this is funded by the public. And it shows us the lack of resources and the lack of political will on a global scale to upkeep these habitats, to protect these people. And this is what we've learned through this pandemic. When we go back, we have to ask these questions. We cannot go back and make the same mistakes again. We can't go back and just, all the over 55s, and I'm heading that way, so I'm allowed to get out. But all the over 55s, they go, and they're the growth industry. They've made some money. They're retired early. They want to go out, and then they do all these events and facilities and destinations. They go to these places, and they don't realise what they're buying into and what they're supporting. But we can't allow that to continue. And we can't just allow that on a grassroots level. We have to then continue to push upwards, to push, in terms of our political environment, CITES, our MEPs, our MPs. And I've been saying this for years. The victims of wildlife crime are not just the animals. We are looking at the exploitation of native people. These people live under conditions that we have absolutely no idea. They would dream about our worst day. Do you know what I mean? And we have no idea how bad things get. And that's why they've been driven to this position. So these people cannot be vilified. But what we need to do is we need to provide a framework and a political will, and that comes from our own campaigning to stop this exploitation, and not just the exploitation, but the demand. Because if nobody bought ivory, if nobody rode an elephant, nobody would have any necessity to be cruel, to poach, to torture train. There'd be just no market for it. So this is how we've evolved. I mean, what we're doing now is we still provide the advice, we still provide the platform. A lot of what we're doing at the moment is speaking, to an environment of people that are starting to understand. I very much started off with the aspect about cruelty, and I used to talk about how all the revenue from these industries ended up, they end up in the hands of people that commit many other crimes, and we're going to hear more about that. We understand that, how poaching and anti-poaching units are treated, etc. That's where I used to start. Now I start would look at how we mess with nature and look at the consequence of it. And we have an opportunity here, because of our intervention in the delicate balance of nature. We are ending up with masks. We've ended up washing our hands 50 million times a day. We've ended up I haven't seen my family in 15 months. Do you know what I mean? How many people have, ended up massive loneliness, massive mental health issues because of this? And that is because of our treatment of animals. It's because of our encroachment on their environment, and because of the lack of a political will for anyone to stand up and say, actually, they're gone, it's game over. Because if we don't protect them, if people don't start to realise that these ecosystems support the biosphere that allows us to live here, we are going to end up being the architects of our own demise. So I know it sounds like a very, very, very deep conversation which started off by people not riding elephants, but it's a much, much deeper issue, and it feeds into a much, much wider problem, and that is our inability to understand we need to give space to these animals and allow them to be what they're supposed to be.